Hello, Derp Nerd here, coming at you with Kerbal Space Program, how to build a single stage to orbit space plane. Let's go into the space plane hangar. So, we have 4 real cockpit choices for space planes. I mean, you can use all of them, but these are the ones I like to use. So, for smaller craft, we have the Mark 1 and Mark 2. Mark 1 has a nice interior, it looks all pretty, but the Mark 2 is really more utilitarian because you get the front and the back 1.5 meter port, and so that's what we're going to be using. Alright, for the larger ones, the Mark 3 cockpit is cool in the front, but the problem is the only thing it lines up for behind it is the very large jet fuel tank, which is fine if you want to use those, but it also throws off your center of mass. Alright, so delete that. Now, we're going to build a very simple, very usable single-stage orbit. And our first thing we're going to do is throw on just one fuel tank. These fuel tanks I don't like to use. Alright, look at the mass, 1.1 with liquid fuel of 150. Now if we go over to this one, it's 160 for basically 1. So we're losing 10 fuel and we're gaining 0.1 mass. And that's not efficient, and I don't like inefficient things. But we're going to use it! Alright, and the reason I like this cockpit with a 1.5 meter port on the front is because I throw docking ports there. I like to be able to dock easily. Alright, I'm going to put SAS on this. Can't wait for 0.21 or 0.21. Has the wheels, the reaction wheel system coming with ASAS. So what we're going to do in preparation for that update is take a nuclear generator and we're going to put it right inside the cockpit. You can't see it. Okay, look, this is weird. If you have a Kerbal in there, the cockpit won't render, but we should still be able to click on it. Oh, whatever. It's in there now. We can always delete the cockpit. Thanks to the 0.20 update. Alright, so we have some fuel. We'll also want an advanced turbojet. Now, advanced turbojet, what's the difference between a turbojet and a basic jet? I call it advanced because the other one's called basic. First off, specific impulse is technically lower. ISP at sea level is 800, ISP in vacuum is 1200. I have not found these to be correct numbers. No. I have gone over 2100 specific impulse. 2100 seconds of specific impulse at different altitudes with this engine. So I don't see how that's accurate at all. This one, you'll notice, its specific impulse decreases as it rises to vacuum. This one's increases. This one also has 225 max power, and this one has 150, mass of 1 versus a mass of 1.2. So you'll definitely want the turbojet for any single stage to orbit aircraft. So, what do we want to do now? Let's throw some very small fuel tanks on here. Now this is more concept than working, so we may not make it to space, no guarantees. Okay, we have those two there. So next you want something that has a high, you want a rocket engine that has a high thrust to weight ratio. This one has a mass of 0.5 to 50, so that's a 100 difference. But the best one's actually this one, which is, what is it, 300? It's super high. It's 150. Okay. Good thrust to weight ratio, but we don't need that much power. So, messing around in the spaceplane hangar, one neat trick is sometimes the other one will go red in your symmetry like that. Just X is your symmetry key. Just hit X once to go to single symmetry and hit X again, and it'll be back to green. This also works with C occasionally, the snap to angle or free. So, we're going to use MechJeb to look at our, what is our delta V with this? Alright, that should be enough to get us into orbit. Let's, alright. So that's a 1.83. And the engine weighs 1.1, so let's throw another fuel tank on it and see what it is. 1.53. So we could probably get away with just one of these, but with symmetry, no. There we go. So, what do we need now? Air intakes. Oh, I need to caution you guys. See this? Don't use. This? Don't use. This is not weight efficient. This is just silly. I don't... Use them with basic jet engines if you want them not to explode. With advanced jet engines, it does not matter. I hope they come out in KSP with an actual ramjet, which is different from the advanced turbojet and can only be used at high altitudes. That would be wonderful. It's in mods. So I've noticed that developers like to stay away from things that already... It looks like they try and stay away from things that already have mods for because they feel like it's a good temporary solution. That's just my guess. Don't take my word for it. So, alright. We are going to put wings on this thing, and we're going to look at the center of mass, center of lift, and center of thrust. Our center of thrust is right behind our center of mass. It all lines up. Look at that. Beautiful. Alright, so now, I like to use these wings. Look at the mass. 0.05, lift of 1.6. This one, 0.07, 1.9. Pretty interchangeable, but this one's more, it's more square. That's how I'll explain it. It looks kind of nicer. So then we're going to throw one back here. Move this one back until we probably want our center of lift to be almost right on our center of mass. Okay, what just happened? There, that's good. Alright, I'm quite happy with that. Control surfaces. So we have it right on. The reason we had that was because we're going to add control surfaces, which have a lot of lift relative to their size. So now you can see our center of lift is slightly behind our center of mass. Now if the center of lift is higher or lower than the center of thrust, that's a problem, because your thing will want to pitch up or down. So if you want to make like a high wing plane, I'd recommend just go straight for a biplane. High plane, biplane. Alright, struts are good. We're going to use them to secure these. Let's give this thing a name. Let's call it the, what do we want to call it? The derpy one. The derpy one. It is the derpy one. Kind of like me. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at our different tail control surfaces. So we have this. Those are good. I like those. We also have these canards, basic canards. They look kind of silly on the small body. They're very good for control though. And the same with the advanced canards because they're just advanced. But I like to use the advanced canards like up here if I have to. So we're not going to use those. These ones have a pretty low mass for a pretty high lift. So that's what we're going to go for. And the best thing I can recommend for this is just make them straight up and down. Don't try and make like a V or something. Make it a complicated, like, now it can pitch and yaw and roll. It's a universal control surface. The game doesn't like that, especially with this as ASAS. So it looks like we have a basic space plane. We have basic space plane. It's so wonderful. Alright, so now we have the struts, we have the SAS, we have mech-jeb just in case. I'm going to get rid of mech-jeb. I want to show you. We are missing one key component, the air intake. And there's really no reason for you not to use a ram air intake. Now you see how it's red there? We're just going to pull off this wing and put those there. So you're going to want a minimum of 3 intakes per engine. That's generally my goal. So we're going to zoom in here. I'm using the middle mouse button. Click there, see what it looks like. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. The middle mouse button does this. It's also shift right click. It will do the same thing. Oh, you guys can't see my mouse. I'm sorry. Well, that's okay. You can see me scrolling over things. Whee! Alright. So, we'll probably want at least one more air intake. More air intakes never hurt. They're very low mass, and in the game right now, they're kind of OP. So, I like to use these cubic octagonal struts because they essentially, the game registers them as this less mass than a strut connector. 0.05 to 0.001. So basically, these are massless. And I believe the game treats them as such, because I've never had a spacecraft that was terribly heavy with them. So you'll notice one's turning up red. Oh, the best way to get rid of that problem is to go, okay, in the back there's a connection point, and try and connect it to that, and you can see the front out of it. And now pull it forward. And look, it's green. Beautiful. You can also try the symmetry thing. Alright, so now we have enough air intakes. Let's do some landing gear. Landing gear, you generally want the nose to be pointed towards up. Towards up. The way you want to go. Because we are going to go up. And you want to angle it slightly. Like I like to... Alright, see this? That's good, but I'm going to actually adjust it so that they're technically straight up, closed. Technically straight up and down. So that the back will be slightly lower. So you also want to have the center of mass close to one side of the wheels, but preferably the back so it's easier to pitch up to take off. Now our center of lift, move back a little bit. I don't like that. So we're going to try and... Yeah, that's good. Save it. Alright, so now, action groups. Action groups are key. So now, you see our center of lift is right behind our center of mass. That's good. You can have it anywhere from right on top to just behind it. As long as, I'd recommend not seeing the ball behind it, unless it's a really big spacecraft. And then you can have a little more air. And the center of thrust is lined up with both of those. Center of thrust and center of mass are the most important, but center of thrust and center of lift you should sort of concern yourself with. Don't go crazy. So, a needle pulling thread. Action groups, action groups, action groups. Custom 1. We are going to have Custom 1 shut off our turbojet. We're going to actually toggle it. I like to toggle. You could have just shut down. And Custom 2 will activate our rockets, because we may want to travel sometime with our rockets being active with our jet. So, why did I use only one turbojet? If you only use one turbojet, if it flames out due to lack of intake air, it'll just spark. It won't throw your spacecraft left or right, because when they flame out, they don't thrust. So if you have one engine that doesn't flame out on one side and an engine that flames out on the other, yeah, you're going into a flat spin. All right, and lastly, just for practice sake, we're going to have our toggle intake. So intakes. They have 0.3 drag when they are closed and up to 2 drag when they're open. So if we can get away with only 2 intakes for as long as we can, that'd be great. That'd be great. So I didn't stage it. You can. Alright, so we're going to activate our jet. So throttle up all the way. That's already laggy. And pull up. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Try not to strike your tail on the ground. So we're going to pull up. I like to do about 50 or 60 degree climb. So you can go higher if you can. Like this definitely can. So engage your SAS. We're at about 65 degrees. I'm going to lower that. And try and keep it on 90. Or else you'll have to do like a plane change later. A plane change. Alright, so what we didn't do was toggle these. Let's see, 3, I think closes in. Yeah, 3. So now there's not much drag. So we want to keep an eye on our air. And if it drops below 0.12, that's when I'm going to open the other ones. So I generally like to pitch up to 60 degrees and hold it there until we're at about, I don't know, 10, 11,000 meters. And then I drop down to about 20 degrees above the horizon. So this will get there relatively quickly and also pick up a fair amount of horizontal speed. We'll watch our thrust. What the heck. So right now we're still in the realm of the basic jet engine. It would have had more thrust, but it would be probably losing thrust. And look at the specific impulse, 2400. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Who was right? Who was right? Alright. Hey man, who was right, huh? Alright, so I'm going to start pitching down. We're getting close to 10,000. Get down to about 20 degrees. And depending... Okay, so there's a trade-off. There's Newton's effect, and then there's actual Bernoulli's principal lift. Bernoulli's principal lift has to do with the wings and air flowing over them. The top of the wing has a greater surface area because it's curved than the bottom, which is generally flat, or close to it. So now we're pitching down to 15 because this thing has more Bernoulli's principle. Newton's effect is stuff, the air particles actually hitting the wings and applying force upward to them. So optimal for Newton's effect would be 45 degrees, but you lose a lot of horizontal speed. So the more Bernoulli's principle you use, the more towards 0 degrees, the exact horizon you can point. So we're rising. We want to keep our gauge up at the top. A little less than, well, we want to keep it less than 100 meters per second. Alright, let's look at our intake air. 0.28. So since we're going so fast, we're getting a fair amount of intake air. So if this thing, option 1, this thing flames out. Option 2, we get down to 0.12 air. Now I can't remember when exactly this will just die. Oh look, we're going pretty good. So we're at 0.22, 0.21, and we're going up pretty fast. So let's pitch down to about 12 degrees maybe. And we should be getting near our maximum thrust, which is 225. Yep. Alright, 0.18, 0.17. Let's pitch down to about 8 or 9 degrees. Use that Bernoulli. And the reason that works is because, the easiest way to explain it is because the air on top kind of wants to catch up with the air on the bottom. So, 0.4. So the air on top has to go faster, which decreases its pressure. And therefore the higher pressure on the bottom exerts an upward force on the wings. 0.13, 0.12. Let's open those up. Yeah, there we go. So, the best thing we can do, if you build a crappy space plane, which I have in the past, my first space planes were really crappy, I would have probably already started the rockets. But in this case, we don't want to, because we're still getting a lot of thrust from the engine, and this is where air intakes come into play. Alright, so let's pitch down a little more. SAS is our friend. A lot of times I use MechJeb for this because MechJeb, actually goes on a degree. So like I could tell it, oh, pitch to 8 degrees. Where this one you kind of just hope that it holds it. And you notice our thrust is decreasing because the higher in the atmosphere we go, the less particles of air there are to push against us, which is reducing our drag, but it's also reducing how much thrust. So we're at 0.15, 0.14. So I'm going to see, I think I can get to 0.06 intake air before this thing starts flaming out. So we'll want to pitch down a little bit, so about maybe 6 degrees. Thrust is still decreasing, but we're still increasing speed. Still increasing speed. I don't know if I said that. And you want to ride this out. See how I had to change it? Started pitching up. That's because the rotation, we're going so fast that the rotation of Kerbin underneath us is actually causing our, every couple seconds, our degree above the horizon we're pointing at to change. So you'll notice it looks like it's slowly pitching up, where it's actually just the ball rotating underneath us. Alright, 0.10. And we're getting up to some serious speed. That's awesome. So, 2,000 meters per second is a good aiming point for this. So let's start aiming 5 degrees-ish. Still re-entry effects. You'll see re-entry effects up until probably 28,000, 30,000. Alright, and you'll notice, well, okay, our vertical speed is a little greater than 10, so that's okay. Let's pitch up a little bit, about 9 degrees. And you'll see the ball is still rotating underneath us. To give us a little more vertical speed. Alright, so we're kind of up on 1900 meters per second surface speed. And orbit speed's actually more than that because we're heading east, which is the way Kerbin rotates to the west. So, wait. No. Alright, we need to throttle down. So, we just had a flame out, and we want to keep increasing speed. So 0.07-ish is where... So now, every time you flame out, you just want to decrease your throttle until... So what I'm doing is I'm decreasing it till it catches again, and then I'm throttling back up. We'll want to keep thrusting all the way until we, as long as we can accelerate, we'll want to keep thrusting all the way up into the atmosphere. Let's go prograde. So, after a certain point, you'll start rising and rising and rising, and you just want to point prograde. So, let's kick in our rockets. Action group 2. Now we'll start increasing speed. And we want to listen for the jet sound. I don't know if I'm recording the jet sound, but every time it sparks, we'll want to decrease the throttle. And we'll want to pitch up some more so that we can gain height. Okay. Excellent. So we aren't using that much fuel, which is great. You'll notice that even though our speed is decreasing, our apoapsis is increasing time-wise away from us, and that's what we need to watch, the time to apoapsis. And you notice we can, once we start throttling down to a certain point, we can just keep that for a lot longer. Speak of the devil. Because this jet isn't providing the majority of our force, but it's providing enough that it's worth it. We're at 7 newtons, and these things are at 3. So yeah, it's actually providing twice the force of what our rockets are producing right now. And we're using hardly any fuel. You'll notice at a certain altitude, once you go in full throttle, but really high up in the atmosphere, it just eats up fuel. Which is completely normal. And the other thing we'll probably want to do is drain off the majority of this fuel. So what's our time to apoapsis? 112. Okay, so let's throttle up all the way down to the majority of our liquid fuel. And you just, at this point, you just want to get out of the atmosphere. You notice we're already up to orbital velocity almost, so it's not going to be very much of a burn. Alright, 107,000. Now we're going to actually kick back in our jet and see if we can ride out any of this. No, it's done. And look, specific impulse 1200. It said that was the maximum. Oh, we have some force, which is great, because we can combat the evil forces of drag coming up out of the atmosphere. And we're still decreasing our apoapsis, which is fine because our apoapsis is really high. And guess what? I actually made it into space. I didn't use MechJeb. Now, if you guys like me using MechJeb because it makes my life a whole lot easier sometimes, I mean, I can do most of the stuff. Okay? Like space planes. I can fly space planes. I'm not great at it, but I can do it. But MechJeb just gives me an edge. You know, I can get bigger and better payload. Bigger and better. Harder, better, faster, stronger. I hope that's not copyrighted. Oh, well. Alright, we are getting into space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set up a maneuver at our apoapsis so that we have like a countdown clock to it. In fact, we could even do space music. I hear it. Do you hear it? Alright, we're just going to circularize our orbit. And then eventually we're going to land at KSP. That's the plan. We have plenty of jet fuel. And let's line it up. And it'll probably only take us a couple seconds to do the burn. Because we have, okay, let's see, a 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio. So our acceleration is roughly 10. That's 20 seconds. So we'll want to start a burn 10 seconds beforehand. 3, 2, 1. Let's see if my estimate was right. 10 seconds. Get it on the right heading. Let's go. Oh. I guess 5 seconds is better, right? That's what it actually took. That's correct. overshot it a little bit, but that's fine. Our new apoapse is 110 kilometers, and our periapse is 105. That's not that bad. Not very eccentric. And we're, let's see, our inclination. The moon is at a perfect inclination, roughly. So what's our inclination? Negative 0.3 and 0.3. That's not bad. I think we can live with that. So where is KSC? It's over there. So we'll want to do a maneuver, something like, a little more than that. Because we can always fly farther, right? So we'll set that up. Line up with it. Okay, so we are in a stable orbit. I'm not going to orbit a couple times just to prove it, but 105 by 110, and we still have... Well, look at our propellant. Oh, our oxidizers are rocket fuel. That's the way you gauge your oxidizer in a spaceplane. That's the way you gauge how much fuel you have left in your spaceplane. Look at the oxidizer, because the engines can't run with just liquid fuel. The jets can. So, we're going to warp on over to our deorbit burn. I think live commentary is better. I just have more to talk about, because I actually remember, oh, what did I do here? Oh, well, we launched a missile, and, Alright, so, let's just burn, baby, burn. Excellent. That's fine. I'm quite happy with that. So now, turn prograde, and we'll want to look at our surface prograde, but we'll probably want to pitch down to about negative 30 in anticipation of the rotation of Kerbal underneath us. Or rather, are we rotating around it? Alright, should have pitched down more. I get it. I'll fix it once we hit the atmosphere. And we're out of... His space music abruptly stops for me. So... I'm going to say it about that pitch, and we'll come in, and we'll get going really fast. Oh, hold on. Let's shut off our rockets, and we won't really get any jets. Alright, so we'll want to brake, so I'm going to keep my nose to like negative 30. I like to brake this way, because the other way, it increases your height. And this way, the downwards pitch, it's not really realistic, I hate to say, because that just means you're going deeper into the atmosphere. I'm using Newton's effect here, where it hits the wings and it applies force downwards. So we should be coming closer to the space center. So I'm going to pitch up now that we're slowing down a little bit. And now we're using Bernoulli's effect, and we should just be able to glide. We'll see how far we can glide. We're decreasing speed pretty fast. Let's stick to 2 times. Yeah, 2 times. Oh, it's just like a rocket. Yeah, 3 times. It's like, no. No. So, we'll probably want to... Yeah, let's power up our jet a little bit. And we can close our air intakes, which is... Because, you know, we're pretty close to sea level. The air's pretty dense. That's the reason the air intakes... If I haven't already said that before. The air intakes tend to... they lose air because the particles are farther apart from each other in the upper atmosphere. So we're just gonna keep... Well, okay, we were at 2 times. I'm like, physics calculates fine at 2 times. That's good. See, this is what I was talking about, the crappy IVA view. Where are my gauges? Where is the world? I have a cockpit, but it doesn't. I don't know. I'm not complaining, because it does have an IVA view. Hitchhiker storage can. But I'm complaining. So, you can already see the runway from here, which is excellent. It's excellent. Just like an egg. So, SAS will be fixed for this next update with a rotational... basically gyros. That's how I'll explain it. It's gyros. The reaction system in the new SAS, which requires power to work. I'm not sure in command pods if it does, because I watched... In fact, I think I might link to the YouTube video in the doobly-doo, as the Vlog Brothers say. But the guy, Jenkins, one of the developers, posted his work on the new reaction system with the new SAS, which is great, which we've always needed because SAS is quite unrealistic. There's also a new space plane building coming, and let's see what else is coming. Let's try and line up with the runway a little better. In fact, I'm going to throttle up. We want to get there faster, right? We have plenty of fuel. 44 in there. Oh, we have 100 fuel easily. Yes, this is just how normal planes fly on autopilot. Because, you know, I actually do fly. I'm looking to get my private pilot's license, but it's not really economically feasible for me right now. So it's a lot of fun. Oh, I love flying. So let's throw down our thrust almost all the way. Try and get lined up, decrease our altitude, lower our gear. I'm not going to turn on brakes. We can mess with brakes later. Get off of auto SAS. You got the SAS. So please comment. Did you like the live commentary? Did you like me not using MacJeb? Because I can do more of that. Or I could do like, looks like something's crashed in front of the runway. Oh, that's okay. Added challenge. So, I did an SSTO spaceplane mission to Duna, which I failed to record. So, one stage, no refueling, but I did use MacJeb for some of the stuff. I manually did most of, alright, let's cut a thrust. I manually did most of the maneuver, as in, I manually set up almost all of the maneuvers. And I actually got off of Duna with a thrust-to-weight ratio of 0.7, which I think is a first for me, getting off an extraterrestrial body with less thrust than gravity. Alright, now we're gliding quite serenely. Let's try and line up. Oh! I'm glad this is not a carrier deck, because we would have missed it. So let's glide to a halt. Turn on our brakes. And there we are, after a successful circumnavigation of Kerbin via the use of orbit. And Reentry looks pretty happy. He's waving at us. Excellent. And let's see. It's 5.19 tons right now. 29 parts. That's pretty good for a really basic space plane. You want to shuttle people up into orbit? Throw a probe on here. We have the nuke generator. We can just throw a probe right behind the cockpit, and bam! You can haul the guy up to orbit, come down, land, make some sort of thing to refuel on the front, and you have a reusable shuttle plane. And that's the principle behind single-staged orbits. You don't have to worry about remaking all the staging. And only took us 47 minutes. So let's see how stupid he is. Oh, he's a smart guy. Pretty smart. A little stupid. Everybody needs a little stupid. Ground them in reality, maybe. Reentry. Alright. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope I taught somebody how to make a single stage to orbit, because I learned most of this by trial and error, because there isn't, even the tutorials I found online, they weren't very helpful. Alright. Thanks, and this has been Derp Nerd. Watch some of my other videos, and like and subscribe if you can. I don't like to push people to like and subscribe. If you like the video, like the video. I'm quoting Harv there, if anyone gets it. But if you found this helpful, go ahead and like it. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Take care.